Hi.
Snipes here after a bit of a hiatus off of the Insurgency content train, but I'm back the day before the update to make a video I've been meaning to do for almost a month now. You'll see this on May 18th, or else the day of the Insurgency Sandstorm version 1.10, dubbed Operation Exodus, being released, and you can take a look at this as my pre-take on what's to come and my overall thoughts given the information present. Now, most of you have come to expect me to have a quite negative view on everything that's added. In fact, when I show people this thumbnail, I get questions on if it's sarcasm, but to be honest, I'm looking forward to Exodus. Stay tuned to find out why. I'm Snipes, and you're watching This Week in Sandstorm. It's not really an understatement to tell anyone who's watched my past videos that I haven't had a very positive experience with previous Insurgency updates. In fact, this series started out when I had something to say about the Cold Blood release and how realistically it wasn't going to improve the game in the slightest, being released so soon after the last major edition and during a time where bugs were overly prevalent in the current version.
But it's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!
People weren't really happy about that take then, and even though more recent coverage on some of NWI's more controversial decisions has been rather successful, I've never been able to shake the reputation of the Sandstorm hater, despite it being the only game I really play, seeing as little to none of these videos have been particularly positive towards any updates whatsoever. The reality is, I've quite enjoyed Sandstorm content like Nightfall or else Breakaway that I've felt added material to the game that would have otherwise lacked. The biggest example being, of course, a whole-ass nighttime mode that reworked every map with 4 guns for the Breacher class, and then directly afterward, underslung shotguns to counter those Breachers with Breakaway and probably just enough rifleman picks from various NATO-friendly backgrounds that you'd really need to see an operative use.
What do I owe you? Nothing. It's for free.
So when you compare that directly to Cold Blood, which didn't fix the bugs we'd been putting up with forever from those past two, added a map before fixing the last one, and basically focused every element towards sniping and campy behavior, which the game already had problems with and nobody wasn't complaining about, or else absolutely abhorrent excuses for cosmetics in a tactical environment and rifleman guns past the point of where we needed more of them, you probably see why I chose to talk about the bad more than the good. That and I wasn't really like around YouTube at the time, so sue me. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that my perspective on what makes a good update versus a bad one is whether it actually adds new content which people asked for and how well that's executed. So assuming Exodus isn't just the buggiest mess we've ever experienced, I'm actually quite happy looking at the overview of what's coming. First and foremost, obviously, is the amazing looking player versus AI mode known as Extraction. A very Black Hawk Down-esque scenario where your unit is taking mad shit from Op 4 and has to find a place in the city to get out before you get put down. I cannot stress enough how the 90% of my brain that is a 10-year-old gets excited when I see that clip of the extraction animation that they posted on Twitter, or else the awesome art they did of it. Actually, if they put the Exodus logo on a shirt, I will buy that shirt. I'm a huge fan of the marketing done here, and the concept itself is very exciting. Even more so would, of course, be the guns. Oh, the guns. No more stupid rifleman weapons when we already have like 24 in the game. No more sniper rifles when there's no need for any. If you watched my speculation video on what weapons we could see next in 1.10, you'd know that next to new gunner ones, still waiting on that NWI please add, pistols would have been my choice, as not only do we not have a huge variety, but every class so far can use them, so all the mains are good and happy. Even more specifically, they're not just redundant Wonder 9s, they're functionally unique hand cannons which introduce pistol-mounted optics and new characteristics overall for something which fits in a holster. And say what you want about previous cosmetics, but none of what they're adding seems particularly out of place in the context of a war zone. I'm more excited for the Rhino cosmetics because they're actual reskins as opposed to adding some texture on bits of other guns, which admittedly look cool but doesn't really have the same energy as, say, this Mosin does. I really like the idea of getting the new free cosmetics by achieving in-game actions that aren't just acquiring currency and buying them. You get these by winning a game of Extraction, and while I'm fairly certain the security one is just a camo and the insurgents get like a mask and some pants. That's still pretty cool to me, and I hope that they take the idea somewhere in the future because achievement-based cosmetics is something this game really needs more of. And finally, in terms of new content, while I won't say I'm ever excited for new maps anymore, seeing as they're generally buggy at launch and Bab was a disaster on its own, which still in my opinion needs a rework, I will say that the fact that so many OG Insurgency and Source players have been hyped after asking for Citadel's return since launch and finally getting it really makes me happy for them, and hopefully it's as good as it was then now. And really all of what I've just listed is just outstanding developer choices, which both create amazing content for us to have now and hopefully sets precedents which we'll see fully realized in the future. As far as concerns go, I'm not really sure I have many outside of the obligatory please fix the bug of the month. That's just plaguing the community, this time namely the one that's broken the VoIP system to the point where players can hear the conversations of enemies across the map even after they're dead.
Yeah, I'm on the other team.
Wait, you're on my team. How does that even work?
Wait, are you dead, Sammy?
No. Wait, what?
Wait, can you hear us? We're dead. How can you hear us?
We're being haunted by ghosts.
You killed us. You bitch. It's mostly gone now after whatever they've done to iron it over, but I still get the occasional bit after every other match as opposed to never, and being entirely unheard of as little as a month ago. As far as the actual guns go, as the gun guy or whatever, I'm quite happy with the revolver, though with the oil can suppressor thing I sort of expected that to be for the insurgents as a cheap looking POS, whereas the Desert Eagle being more advanced would be for security. That definitely is confusing to me because it's in fact switched. Even more so is that of the hand cannon style weapons they decided to implement. They went with a Deagle, not particularly known for its practicality, reliability, or overall effectiveness, just because the real life equivalence is a heavy, clunky model that's a conversation piece at best, and at worst is the H2 Hummer of the gun world. What's really more concerning to me is that it was previously stated by Insurgency dev Mikey that they weren't looking at adding the Desert Eagle at all, primarily because it just doesn't get used in a warfare application in real life, and with this addition being announced not a month after his leaving, it's not really a mystery why he's gone, considering that the people working on the game now don't really seem to be following the same developer philosophy. And while that's neither here nor there, we've seen where that's gotten us before, and hopefully we don't really see much more of that, developers not caring what their community is asking for, because at the end of the day, it's not helping anyone. I personally don't particularly hate the Desert Eagle or its addition. Realistically, I see it being an overpriced and underpowered cash sink for what it is in terms of usability and more of a novelty, and I have to admit I used it so much in Siege that I'd personally not mind taking it for at least a test drive one more time before I start getting pissy about a handgun in a game. But no matter what, how I look at it, at the end of the day, when that's the biggest issue, I'm more excited than not, so we'll see when we see. Overall, I just hope that more than anything, it turns out that what we have here in Exodus will be the framework for what becomes more solid updates in the future of Insurgency. Will Operation Exodus be good? I don't know. I think so, but whatever it is or isn't, I'll be here to talk about it. Until then, I'm Snipes. This has been your week in Sandstorm, and you can find me out there in Exodus.
Okay, just stay Charlie, stay Bravo. Wait, let him have it.
Don't come in, I'm reloading.